3,000 or 4,000 decentralized applications on top of Ethereum. If you check how active they are and how many users are actually using these dApps, it's very, very low amount of numbers. It's very, very mature. It's just the beginning. Even Ethereum, that is the second largest cryptocurrency, I think it's still a little bit in the academic phase. There's very innovative ideas, but business traction is just starting from that respect, from real application and real usage. So what we thought what this application did in order to scale today, in order to be able to start using blockchain for their ecosystem. And this is how orbs started. We actually analyzed all the different infrastructure in the market, and there's very innovative projects, and each one tries to optimize for somebody else. It can be scale or anonymity or compliance or decentralization. And we don't think there's going to be one blockchain that is the best of everything, because it's a lot of trade-offs. But we thought that if we build a blockchain from the ground up that caters to some of the large enterprises that we were working with, I think this can become something very big and drive real value in the ecosystem. So I want to show you one slide from the presentation that I think is the most important slide about orbs, and really shows the differentiator without the infrastructures. So this is how we see the ecosystem today. We see dichotomy in the market. On the left-hand side, we see very innovative infrastructures like Ethereum and Polkadot and Tezos. And essentially what they're doing, they're building a public, permissionless infrastructure for decentralized applications. But as I discussed a little bit earlier, decentralized applications still have a long way before they can gather mainstream adoption and make impact on day-to-day. Today, the largest apps on top of these infrastructures are about 500 daily active users. It's a very small amount. And my belief is that I don't think there will actually be a peer-to-peer Uber that is better than Uber, or a peer-to-peer Airbnb that is larger than Airbnb. Because we need to understand some of these marketplaces in the real world, they create a lot of value. Not everything needs to be decentralized. Some of them are gathering too much power, so I think if they use blockchain technology, they actually share their power better with the ecosystem. That will make them even more competitive. I think they will start to compete on this trust. But decentralized apps are very, very early. It's more academic than actually business applicable. On the other side, we see the private blockchains. AWS is creating one, IBM, Hyperledger, Cordova, Quorum. Essentially what they're building is a private blockchain for enterprises, for large companies. So there's a lot of business traction from the real world. Samsung is looking at that, Microsoft is looking at that, and financial institutions and many other top 500 companies. The issue is that this infrastructure had little innovation, because essentially this private network, they rely on trust between the parties that are part of these private blockchains. And the real innovation about blockchain is the trustless nature of the technology. These infrastructure are not basically fault tolerant. So where do we see orbs? We think orbs can be in the middle, and this is really the blue ocean. If we can develop a public permissionless infrastructure, but for enterprises, I think this can become something very big. As I mentioned, they're building permissionless infrastructure for dApps, very little business traction. They're building private infrastructure for enterprises, a lot of business action, but very low innovation. But in the middle, if you can build a public permissionless infrastructure for enterprises, this can become very big. And it's a little bit deceiving to see the actual use cases, how this can be used. But I think an example that I heard that give the analogy very good is that initially new technology for the applications that we're used to today, it seems like it's less good. For example, when we shifted from PC to mobile operating system, people that used to work on Word and Excel suddenly thought that mobile isn't very useful because it's a small screen and a very weak CPU. Why would I need that for the applications that I'm using today? But what the mobile operating system brought is two new features that you couldn't do on a computer before. And this is the camera and the GPU. So suddenly developers can develop new kind of applications like Uber, like Instagram. And something similar is happening with blockchain. Initially, it looks very mature. The technology is very expensive. The transaction throughput is very low. But developers will be able to build new applications, new use cases that don't rely on this 100% trusting the middleman or a centralized server. So to give you a couple of examples how large enterprises, I think, will use blockchain technology in the future and how it will be applied by governments, government, and mainstream people. So two of the big things that are happening in Europe right now, one, for example, is that the European Union, they just fined Google for abusing the algorithm and driving search results to sell more Google products within their search engine. And this is obviously illegal. They fined them $2 billion for doing that. And they're going to pay that Google, obviously. But the day afterwards, let's say Google wants to prove to the European Union that the algorithm is doing what it's supposed to do. Or the European Union wants to enforce that Google algorithm is abusing its power. How do they do that? This is the kind of use cases you can't rely on accounting firms and law firms or notarians to provide the trust. They need something to provide trust in a scalable manner, in a technology way, and this is exactly one of the use cases to apply blockchain. Another example is GDPR, for example, in Europe, the right to forget yourself. Today we give permissions to many companies like Visa and MasterCard with our credit card, or let's say Facebook with all our information. But GDPR says that if I want to take my permission back, they have to delete this information. And these large companies will want to delete the information because it will become illegal for them to hold it. But how does Facebook prove to the users and to third parties that they deleted this information? They need to third party to guarantee that this has been done. And this is kind of the example that I think can be achieved using blockchain technology in scale. Big companies are going to compete on the trust of users, and blockchain technology is going to be one of the ways for the companies to say, don't trust us, but verify, and the blockchain will enable to do that. And another slide that I want to talk about is the proof of stake universe. As I mentioned, one of the biggest qualities and advantages in orbs is that we're creating public permissionless infrastructure. So over time, we'll be able to scale the amount of validators and guardians to very big amounts. Today, there is a big issue with decentralization. It's a trade-off between security, decentralization, and speed. For example, EOS and Stellar, they're very fast, but they're only 21 nodes. So they're very decentralized in their gatherings compared to Ethereum and Bitcoin that have 18,000 nodes. But because you need to propagate the data all over the network, transactions become very expensive. For example, to store data on top of Ethereum today, it's almost 10,000 times more expensive than to store data on top of Amazon Web Services. So if I'm a developer or I'm an enterprise and I need to decide, am I going to use Ethereum or am I going to use Amazon? About 99% of the use cases I will use Amazon because it's very hard to find use cases with 10,000x ROI or 100x ROI or 10x ROI. It is something that obviously companies care about. So orbs is solving some of these issues, and we want to keep the network as decentralized as possible. So a big part is the community and the proof of stake universe, and how the network is secured by the stake of the users. And you can today stake the orb tokens using MetaMask or directly from the Ether wallet by sending 0.07 orbs, or also be adding the support of Celsius, so any tokens within the Celsius app automatically will be staked. And this helps secure the network and also keep it decentralized. there's a lot of innovations that orbs is bringing to the market that will enable large enterprise to use blockchain to scale. Some of the things is fees, as I mentioned. Orbs is creating a fee structure that is almost only powered with Amazon, which is unheard of today. Orbs is creating a scalable infrastructure that we can infinitely scale the transaction throughput using virtual chains, which is similar to virtual machines by Amazon. We're actually going to conduct a test with a third-party application to show the comparison between Orbs and Ethereum and Tezos and Cosmos and some of the other networks, how many transactions per second can be done and what will be the cost. And I think this will be a very strong validation to the architecture behind Orbs. We can do 100,000 transactions a second on a predictable feed without congesting the network because of isolation. I think that would be a great validation. But we really need everybody to be part of the proof-of-stake universe in order to help decentralize and secure it. And this is why the partnership with Celsius is very, very important to us. So these are the two important slides. One, to understand how Orbs differentiates from other permissionless blockchains is that we aim for enterprise and less for decentralized applications. We feel that the largest companies in the world will adopt blockchain technology. It will make them more competitive, and we think Orbs will be one of the solutions for these enterprises. And the second thing is really the strength of the proof-of-stake ecosystem. Currently, we're about 30% staking, and it's growing every day, and we need a community engagement. And the last thing I want to talk about is just to explain a little bit about Bitcoin. It's not related to Orbs, but I think it's important to understand also a little bit the macro picture, because Bitcoin is the leading cryptocurrency, and a lot of the market is being driven by what is happening in the Bitcoin space. And as was mentioned before, there's a lot of cycles in Bitcoin, and there's a reason for some of these cycles. So in 3 minutes, I'll give you how we understand Bitcoin and what we think happened and where do we think it's going. And again, this is not an investment advice of any kind. This is just how we understand the market after analyzing it for the last 6 years. So a lot of people know this. Bitcoin is very unique because it's a deflationary currency. This is why a lot of people like to compare it to gold or say that Bitcoin is a good store of value. I've actually been telling all of my friends and family to put 2-3% of their saving into Bitcoin. That's very rational because the salaries that we earn in US dollar or shekel or Korean won are inflationary currency. So we're losing buying power if we don't use the fiat currency. So what do people do? They diversify. They put some into real estate. They put some into the stock market. They put some into gold, some into pharmacy. We think you should put 2-3% into Bitcoin because it's a deflationary currency and it's the fastest growing asset class in the last 10 years. If you think about it, and Ethereum in the last 5 years. And it's uncorrelated to the other investment verticals like real estate and the stock market. So 2-3% of the savings, we think it's very rational. So 2009 was the first block, and 2,104, I think, something like that. There's going to be 21 million Bitcoins. Right now, we're like at 17 million Bitcoins. And the way it goes down is that every 4 years, there's a halving. So if I draw the graph of Bitcoin, 2009, and then there was a halving in 2012, 2016, 2020 is in May. This is the next halving, and it goes on. So the first 4 years, it was 50 BTC every 10 minutes. And then the next 4 years, it's 25 BTC. And then it's 12.5 BTC. This is what we have today. And 2020, it's going to go to 6.25, 6.7. So it's a deflationary currency. And this has a big effect because you need to understand how the miners, how do they work. So today, if the 12.5 BTC per 10 minutes, if you multiply that by 6, it's 1 hour. If you multiply that by 24, it's 1 day. If you multiply that by 30, and let's say the price is 10K, Whoever does this calculation, let's say it's about $400 million. It means that every month, $400 million of new Bitcoins are being created. And if the price of Bitcoin is higher than the price of producing Bitcoin, more miners go into the ecosystem. So essentially, the Bitcoins that are being created are equal to the price of electricity that the miners are burning. So there's an equilibrium. It's a very, very competitive market, what the miners are doing to protect the Bitcoin network. Every time the Bitcoin goes up, more miners go in. Every time it goes down, the miners go out. But what is very unique is these halving points. Because when a halving happens, in 1 second, the price, the amount of Bitcoin that are being produced is reduced by half. So 12.5 goes to 6.75. So right now, with this new equation, the total is $200 billion, from 400 to 200. The payout to the miners will reduce by half in 1 second when a halving happens every 4 years. So the miners have to do one of two things. Or they shut down machines and they stop mining because they're getting paid less for their electricity, or they stop selling Bitcoins and then the price can go up because there's less sell pressure. So or the price goes up, or the hashing power goes down. Historically, every time the halving happened, the hashing power didn't drop, but the price has gone up. And this is because miners have fixed costs. They build the farm, they buy the infrastructure, they don't want to shut down the machines. They have so much sunk cost behind them. So this is how it looks every time there is a halving, and what happens after the halving. So between 2009 to 2012, Bitcoin reached $2. At the beginning, it was like monopoly money. It took a lot of time to get trust into the ecosystem, into Bitcoin. And then 2012 happened, there was a halving. 2013, the price reached $1,000. There's a lot of hype, there was a lot of media. It's not sustainable by real growth, and this is the cycle that happens. Then there was a 14 months correction to $150, and usually another 14 months of more gradual growth. It reached about $700 in the next halving of 2016. About 70% of the previous all-time high. And then 2017, 1 year after the halving, it's almost 1 year afterwards, there's the bull market. And that's how it was historically. It reached 19,500. Obviously, this is not sustainable, the growth is too quickly, institutions are not there, the custodian is not there. It was mostly driven by retail, so again, there was a correction to about $3,000. 14 months of correction. And now we think there's 14 months of gradual growth until the next halving. We thought it's going to be about 10K. 10K reached earlier, but not even until the end of the year, and already the price is rallying back to 10K. We think it might go upper, it might go lower, but we think towards 2020 it will be around this price, 10K. And then 2021 is really the year to look for some of the growth of the ecosystem. I think it will align with some potential ETF, the custodians will have better solutions, some of the big pension funds already have better tools, but just the halving effect is very critical. So we think potentially there's going to be growth to 70K or 100K. So if you think the first 4 years from $2 to 1,000, there was 500x growth. And then the next 4 years of the halving, it was between 150 and let's say to 50K, because this price wasn't supported for so long. So it's about 100x growth. And we think the next 4 years is going to be between 10 to 25x. So from the bottom, which was 3,000, we think it's between 30K, as I mentioned, 75, 100K. So we think that we saw the bottom, 3,000 was the bottom of the last bear market. Now I think we're in a long trend, we're in a bull market. Obviously there will be some correction along the way, the asset is very volatile, but we think that holding over the next 18 months and getting past the halving, which is a critical point, and then 2021 is really the year that I think will drive a lot of the ecosystem and Bitcoin to potentially all-time highs. So always look at the halving because they have a big effect on the miners. And as we know, there's always this bull and bear market because every time it goes up in the media, not necessarily sustainable. So, you know, don't get too greedy and don't get too fearful. And as Alex mentioned, a big part of this ecosystem in the early days of doing this journey and allocating 2-3% of the saving, I think it's something that is very rational, and I think we're privileged to be part of this journey, and it's still just the beginning, it's just very early on. So Bitcoin is an asset class, and some of the infrastructure projects that I think will help enterprises really bring huge traffic on top of blockchain. We hope orbs will be one of those infrastructures. Thank you.
네. 오늘 아주 저울까지 한 연설을 할 수 있습니다.